Did we have a quorum?
Yes, everybody is on the call, the entire board. So.
Okay, I'd like to call the RTA Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, October 27th, 2020 to order. Teresa, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bibb?
Here.
Okay. Mayor Byrne?
Here.
Mayor Byrne? If you can unmute
Here.
yourself. Okay. Mayor Clough?
Here.
Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Aaron Lucas? Ms. McCall?
Here.
Ms. Moss?
Here.
Ms. Peo?
Here.
Mr. Serrano?
Here.
And Mayor Weiss.
Here.
We have 10 board members present.
Thank you. Can you read the certification regarding notice of meeting?
Mr. President, I first advise that notice of this meeting has been posted more than 24 hours in advance of the meeting, that the usual notification has been given the news media and other interested persons, and that all requirements of the Ohio Revised Code and rules and bylaws of this board regarding notice of meeting have been complied with. Thank
you. We have two minutes in our packet. One is for September 1st, 2020. It was a special board meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 1st?
Second, Byrne.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, changes, or discussion? Any objection? The minutes are approved. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the September 15th, 2020 minutes of board meeting?
So moved.
Aaron, second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions, or concerns of the minutes? Hearing any objections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Okay, before we go into the public comments, we do have Representative Bride Rose Sweeney on the line to give us an update she's from House District 14 on state issues. Representative Bride Rose Sweeney, you're on.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for allowing me to speak briefly with this esteemed board. Again, I'm Bride Rose Sweeney. I am representing the 14th House District. That includes 2 Western, Ward 16, 17 of Cleveland, Brooklyn, Brook Park, Parma Heights, and Millbrook Heights. I am in my first term, but I'm not new to politics or the State House. I've actually been through 3 GAs, so 6 years of actually working at the State House. In my first term, I was lucky enough to be appointed to the Finance Committee that hears the transportation budget and also the $70 billion biennium state budget. And so I'm sure you guys all know we are about a week away from our election, so there's not much going on at the State House, but very quickly, as soon as we return, we have sessions scheduled about, 5 days, 6 days after the election, and which will be going into a lame duck session, which I'm sure everyone on the call knows is any bill that doesn't get passed at the end of the year will die. And this is typically a very crazy, fast-paced time. You see a lot of shenanigans, and I think that this is compounded on with what's happening with COVID, and also, politics isn't in a vacuum, and that's going to play a factor. And I say that because I'm sure you guys are also aware of, the recent changing of speakerships having to have removed Speaker Householder for his involvement in indictment in the largest bribery scheme, and then having a new speaker who was appointed by a 1-point margin. And I bring that up because that plays a factor in kind of how he is trying to govern and kind of what we're going to be seeing in this lame duck session. So depending on how the election goes, who wins, who loses, who's going to be serving next year, and what his level of support going in will likely dictate kind of the bills we're going to see coming forth. I'm hopeful that, that delegation stays bipartisan, that he's going to be working with more of the moderate members, working towards, getting some, forward-thinking legislations. And one of those that's kind of been rumored to have happened, which I do think is related to the board's agenda, is the capital budget, which is money that's put into, through general revenue fund, but that's set aside for, the off year in order for state departments to give out, capital improvements. And I think that that's important because, in my year of going through this as a representative, I've seen, projects such as City Block bring in how much important it is. We're talking about investment, economic development, how much public transit is a part of that, and it's a part of the whole puzzle. And I think that the more we can connect the work that you guys do to, maybe not direct funding, but funding for other things that do impact the greater picture is so important. And I'm hopeful that this capital budget will go through. We are hearing it's probably be, less dollars. I'm hoping for the original $150 million. That is not, it's bonded money, so it's not general revenue funds, which I think that, in my personal opinion, in times of economic downturns, having a way to invest and, spur economic development and continue projects is vital in this time. So after we go through this very hectic period, we'll have a new General Assembly, and, with term limits in, the state General Assembly, we have, 8-year term limits. So you see this influx of new people, and it's very fast paced. With you have an influx of new people who will be first time serving in state government. Where we pass the transportation budget within the first 3 months, and then the $70 billion state budget 6 months after that. And I think it's just really important, and I'm appreciative of you guys connecting. I know you've spoken with other of my colleagues, and how, as the delegation in Cuyahoga County, the more we can stick together in those very early months and be bipartisan, and showing the state, which I can speak, and I'm sure my other colleagues can as well, about some of the not understanding of why we would invest in public transit dollars. It seems like the makeup of the House is kind of turning into, not so much Republican versus Democrat, but urban versus rural. And, when we were passing, when we got that, historic increase in recent times of the $70 million in the general, the state annual budget, we had individuals stand up on the floor, and they were just so, avidly against. They say, I'm in Columbus and I see buses go by with no one on them. We don't even, and, in their areas that they represent, they don't have, public transit, and they don't rely on that. But, I think that having our delegation, in Cuyahoga County, who knows how important that is, it's so important for us to work together, and with your help to kind of keep us together and on message at, starting in January, expressing, there was this great article that I like to share all the time about, the 3 C's, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland areas, or those counties, make up by far more than, half of the entire state's economic growth, revenue. Urban areas subsidize rural areas. And, although they might not see these dollars that are investing in public transit relate directly to their areas that might not have it, but it's essential for our communities, but also to help their communities with the revenue that we're generating, the jobs that we're creating. And also, I am a millennial and a younger person. I talked about this on the Ohio House floor about, we see the brain drain. I've seen, most of my friends have moved to other states. Part of that's just for warmer weather, but also for states that that are more millennial friendly, and millennials and younger people want to use transit. And I think the more we can talk about that again in connection to economic development and, kind of merging our communities together, I think would be very powerful. I know that you have seen, we did get that investment, and I know that's been cut. And going, I will be serving on the Finance Committee again next General Assembly, hopefully, that it will be a much different budget. Last year, we saw great bipartisan support, partly because we did increase the gas tax, and they had to come over for Democrat support, which, I am a Democrat and a super minority. Part of my reason why I agreed to that was for the increase in public transit dollars. And I'm not sure that will be the same dynamic, having that, increase already there, and also having a budget where we're probably going to be cutting compared to last biennium budget where we, before COVID, actually had more, revenues coming in, and the fight was really about where we're going to invest rather than where we're going to cut. So I think that, it's very important, again, and I would love you guys' help to keep our, Cuyahoga County delegation to be strong, bipartisan, because this isn't a Democrat-Republican issue on these funds. And we saw that, last budget. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if there's something I didn't cover, I'd be happy to let you know what I know.
Having a few individuals in the state recognizing the importance of public transportation. So we have received some additional funds over the last couple of years, and we want to make sure we continue to be in line for any funds that we're able to receive to make sure that public transportation is alive and well in Cleveland area. So we want to thank you once again. Are there any questions or comments?
I have one. This is India Birdsong. Bri, good morning. Representative Sweeney, we appreciate you being here. I want to echo the sentiments of our board chair. Just a quick question. Are there any recommendations that you have for Cleveland RTA that can help support your mission in the House to be able to really support public transit? I know that we've had a few representatives and senators on our calls, and we really appreciate the time that you guys dedicate to public transit and really just to our general public and our board. Are there any words of wisdom that we can take home, so to speak, and do our homework to be able to help you as well?
Well, thank you so much for that question. And I think it's nothing revolutionary. It's really about, I think, starting early, and depending on, who, it all depends on after the election, who is there, and making sure that, you guys are working with us. So, we have, we represent, 110,000 people. We have 1 million people polling us in different interests. And I think that, I know we met with the delegation, and that was so helpful. So and it's hard to get us all in the same room or even on the same call, but really starting that, I would just say very early, because, you could have some new people in there who are serving for the first time, and it's really a very quick, fast-moving process as soon as you get elected. So you get sworn in, and within the first 3 months, you're voting on the transportation budget and then the $70 billion state budget, which all impacts, that's where this money is going to be coming from. And so, it's very, once the governor releases his proposal, whether or not you guys are in there, it's kind of a whole battle. And so I would just say, getting us, and I would offer my help in, encouraging my colleagues, or, using my office to kind of rally people to get on the same call and to get on the same message, because it is very powerful. I know we had, bipartisan support, and I think that is why we were able to see those dollars. And really, as Cuyahoga County, there are more rural representatives out there, but we do disproportionately have a bigger impact on the state's budget. And I think that message from the representatives that represent Cuyahoga County needs to be louder and clearer. And I think that that's kind of my message of saying, let's stick together on, better, and work together when we can. And anything you do, as RTA that is really not a Democratic Republican issue to help us kind of formulate that and, use your messaging, I think is helpful. So first thing is I just start, you can't start too soon. I think that's why it's important, or great, that you guys are even having these calls one-on-one with members, and anything we can do. And again, it is difficult, that I can help kind of get us together and to, sign a letter to the speaker, to the chairman of the finance committee, saying the entire delegation, this is so important, or even working with the other major cities who, have similar missions of trying to get increase in this fund that benefits all of us.
Okay, well, thanks again, Representative Sweeney, and it is good to know that bipartisanship does work on transportation. We're very happy to have both sides of the aisle, working on behalf of public transportation in the state of Ohio. So thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Mayor Clough, India Lee is on the call from the Cleveland Foundation. So,
Okay, India, we'll let you.
Participant has left the meeting.
Oh.
Hi.
Oh, okay.
Oops.
India, nice to know that you're on the line.
Can you hear me?
Yes. For the Cleveland Foundation?
Yes. Thank you for allowing me this time this morning. I just want to say that the Cleveland Foundation is proud to partner with RTA on the grant before you this morning. We've had a long-term relationship with RTA and partnership. And when we did this free day of transit in 2014 as part of our centennial, it is still the most talked about free gift to the community. Even since then, people ask all the time, when can we have another free day, you know, in the community? How, you know, when you're going to do it again. And I think this will benefit people. And when we talk about equity, especially as important as the November 3rd election is, we need to give access to individuals to be able to go vote and that don't have transportation. So this is really an important time, and we're proud to continue to partner with you.
Say good morning to you. Thank you so much for being on the call. We understand that your schedule is tight. And so for those that are listening in and those in the board, we did ask Ms. Pierce-Lee to dial in during the public comment section, so we were able to hear from Cleveland Foundation. You will hear a little bit more about the project later on in the board meeting regarding the free fare, sponsored fare for Election Day on November 3rd. So I just wanted to personally say thank you so much. It's been a joy working with Cleveland Foundation, and we look forward to partnering with you and presenting the resolution to the board for approval later on today.
Yes.
Thank you for your consideration.
Reverend Lucas, go ahead.
Ms. Lee? You still on the line?
Yes, I'm
yeah,
here.
she's still there. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever live on Kempton Avenue?
That's my sister.
This is Reverend Lucas. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? But I still live in Glenville. This is where we grew up, so we're all still here.
Great, thank you.
Dear
friend.
I just quickly want to just say thank you to India and the Cleveland Foundation, and also to our CEO, India, as well. I know that this is an idea that, you know, Jose, myself, and others in the community have been talking about for a while, and I'll be happy to, once we hopefully approve this resolution, for the city of Cleveland to join a number of other cities across the country and across the state who have had free fares on Election Day. So it's a great step in the right direction for democracy, and I'm happy we're a part of it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I'll close with also giving my thanks to India Pierce-Lee and Ellen Ashby of the Cleveland Foundation for making this grant available to assist others on Election Day. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Now, and to my namesake, goodbye, India.
Thank you, India.
Okay.
The only two I know of.
Oh, okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're opening the board meeting up to public comments. Teresa, do you have any in writing or anyone here?
I can start with those in writing, so that will give the live stream time to catch up with the meeting, just in case we have callers. So my first email is from Libby Schubert, and she said this is an agenda item. With the majority development plan to improve the GCRTA and increase the quality of services, an easy way to free up funding for that project is by defunding the transit police and reallocating that money back into improving the experiences of the riders. On Thursday, 3 years after the historic Groves decision ruled armed fair enforcement unconstitutional, Clevelanders for Public Transit is holding a virtual event to talk about alternatives to transit police. We invite the board members to attend the event to hear from riders about their experiences with transit police and our demands to create a safer and more effective transit system. Register for this event at clefortransit.org. And I believe there was a few more agenda. Might have been one more. Okay, this agenda item comment is from Nathan Jercago from Cleveland. I've noticed an absurd amount of allocation of the budget for transport has been going to the transit police over the past few years. I, as well as many others who have used and still use RTA services, feel like these are unnecessary expenditures and the money would be more helpful funding other areas used for strengthening the community. I hope you will join the board meeting on the 29th, where the topic will be presented for further discussion. You can RSVP at clefortransit.org. And I'm just going to scroll through here to see if there are any more comments labeled agenda items. And I believe those are it for agenda items. So if we have any callers, we could take those now.
We don't have any callers.
Okay, Holly said we don't have any callers.
Okay. Any reports from any of the committees? Okay. Hearing none. Okay, Reverend Lucas, there's a presentation here at Air Transit.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like now to ask the board and staff to hear our presentation from the Paratransit Department and our directors here.
Good morning, Chairman Lucas, Chairman Clough, members of the board, Ms. Birdsong. Nick Davidson here, Director of Paratransit, and I wanted to talk with you a few minutes this morning to cover our paratransit operations improvements, particularly related to operational priorities that are in bold. Improving our customer service experience, especially reducing our call wait time in our 2 call centers of reservations as well as dispatch call center, as well as I'll be touching on the on-time performance and the onboard travel time of our paratransit service today. Here's a look at the past year for our reservation call wait time. Last September, our average hold time to reach a reservation agent for paratransit was a little over 30 minutes. Today it is, or as of in the month of September, it was 34 seconds. As you can see, that a large percentage of that came before COVID. We're down to around 7 minutes before COVID, and since then we're under a minute. It's important to note, I think, here that our ridership in September and our calls in September were twice as much as that of April. So we've implemented a number of changes to, while our call volume is low, to make the progress we've made sustainable for the future. Even when we return to normal call volume, we should anticipate excellent times here. Also, just as a general note, the national standard is to have 95% of calls answered within 2 minutes and 99% answered within 5 minutes. So we are well above the national standard. As you can see, our call wait time was reduced by 98%. We provided additional customer service training to our representatives, and the cancellations are now handled by the call center, which actually helps our dispatch center, and as well as the customer service experience. They're no longer, we also used to leave messages for cancellations, and now those are handled by a live agent. We expanded the hours of operations for our reservation center from 8:30 to 4 to now 7:30 to 4:30, and we added 2 additional positions There's been a number of other improvements, but I'll address that momentarily because the other improvements affect both reservations and the dispatch center. Similar story in our dispatch call center. Last fall, our average call wait time was nearly 10 minutes, and today it's right around 1 minute. That is slightly higher than the reservation center, but they're handling a number of high volume traffic as well as our vehicles on the street and maintaining those. So it's right around a minute, and so it's still above the national average. Some changes that we've done to impact both call centers is our subscription management. Our subscription trips are those standing trips where our customer does not have to call in to schedule the trip, so they're taking the same trips every day with the same times. So we're proactively managing those trips a little bit differently. We've enhanced our call monitoring to improve the accuracy of our trips. We've increased the accountability for that accuracy and in the call center, and we've increased our employee training. The other item we've done is our communicated our metrics daily. This has really served to change the culture of the call center so that every day we're posting our numbers and displaying that for the call center so they're constantly seeing their individual performance as well as the team performance. So they're really striving to see how low they can get that call wait time, and it's really driven that ownership in the culture of that call centers. Onboard time. If you look at this, 75%, almost 75% of our trips are delivered in under 30 minutes. So people are not spending very much time on the bus. As you can see, 93% or so are on the bus under 45 minutes, and 98% are on board under an hour. This is probably our worst month in the past 6 months. And October's numbers are already outperforming this. So even in the past 6 months, in our worst month, it's pretty impressive. So this is well above standards, and so we're not only getting people there quickly and on time, we're doing they're spending very little time on board the bus. On-time performance last fall, we were around 81%. National expectation is around 90%. So pre-COVID, we had gotten up to 89.5%. Since COVID, we're up around 96%. It's important again to notice that
Participant has left the meeting.
While we're currently almost 96%, our ridership from April has more than doubled. We're currently about 62% of pre-COVID levels. Back in April when we hit that 96.08, we're only operating at 30%. So our ridership has doubled, and we have not seen a drop in the on-time performance. So some other changes that we've made have made this sustainable, so we have some good expectations going into the future. These improvements have been contributed to implementing our street routing, and this is using our predicted path of travel in the mapping system to create and develop an accurate schedule. We've adjusted some time distance calculations in the algorithm that it uses to calculate travel time. We've adjusted the traffic pattern consideration, so think of your peak travel and flow of traffic on 3 o'clock on a weekday versus 9 o'clock Saturday morning, so we've adjusted the travel for that. And we've also adjusted the number of scheduling days. Previously, we scheduled 7 days in advance. Currently, we're scheduling 3 days in advance, and this has led to a number of improvements, especially our cancellation rate, which I'll highlight here in a moment. Some next items that we intend to continue working on is implementing our service infraction software. This tracks no-shows, late cancels, and cancels at the door. And then when we have those issues, we can send educational letters, and we'll send several educational letters, followed by warning letters, and then up to suspension. So we previously had this in place, not the software system. It was done ad hoc as people came to our attention. We stopped that practice several months ago. It just wasn't equitable, and we want to make sure that the standard is applied fairly across the board to all passengers. So this software will ensure that as we work on our no-shows and cancellations, that it's done in an equitable manner. As I mentioned, our cancellation rate and changing from 7 days to 3 days, that's impacted our cancellation rate significantly. We're currently about 28%, and there was times last year. There's 1 month where we had a cancellation rate of 41%. When we're canceling trips and 4 out of 10 trips are not taken, it significantly impacts our planning and our capacity, and as well as our on-time performance and call center performance. So driving that cancellation rate down from 41 to 28 is very significant. And while that's a huge improvement, we still have work to go, room to go. That is still well above the national average. So we need to drive that down. And then lastly, we're going to be continuing to work on our customer service interactions. Customer service is a big initiative in paratransit service as well as the authority. We're doing a number of actions to address the friendliness of our call takers, our operators, and every interaction that our passenger may have. With that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any further comments or questions?
Naturally,
yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll go
This is Leo. You touched on the service infraction software and equity. Can you give a little more detail on that?
Sure. So our without this software, when we have no shows, late cancels, or cancels at the door, so we ask that passengers who aren't going to be taking the trip cancel their trip in advance. When somebody would have a habit of no showing trips or canceling at the last second or not until we arrive at the door, it negatively impacts our operations. So what's been happening is if we noticed somebody having an established pattern or practice of this, then we would send them a warning letter or education letter and possibly suspension. And that was when they came to our attention. And I don't think that standard was applied fairly and equitably across the board to all passengers. This software that we're going to enable here will actually track that and apply that to all passengers. So it's not just when we happen to notice somebody. It'll be applied fairly. So what had happened is if somebody caught our attention, then they may receive a warning letter or a suspension, and yet another person who had canceled far significantly more was not being penalized at all, and it just wasn't fair or accurate. So does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. President, I do want to make several comments. The director has done an excellent job. We've been working together with this department. One of the early things that people who take compared transit were having trouble waiting 30 minutes or more to get into the office, and often they were at places a distance from home, and their cell phone would run out of battery shortage, and they were stuck. So this has just been great. And also, now when you call in, you used to call in and say your number 99, and so forth. Now when you call in, they will address you within 1 or 2 minutes. Done an excellent job. Also, the type of response that you get, how the operators talk to you and so forth. But he's done an excellent job, and if you notice, we are beating the national level in so many things. We want Paratransit Cleveland to take on a big note nationally how well we do, and I'm very proud of that. Also on this cancellation that we're working on, because as you know, that really throws them off, is when they have to go to a house and the person has canceled or really didn't cancel and just comes to the door. I've often been on the bus, and he goes up to the door and say, "Oh, I forgot to call," or they call and so forth. But that throws the whole schedule. So he's really working on that. So I just want to say that I'm very pleased as a daily rider, number one, but I represent, you know, there's a line in the Bible when Legion goes up and says, I'm not here by myself, I represent many. And so I represent many because people that know that I'm on the board, number one, but know that we ride on the transit together. There's a new level of appreciation and also consideration, and I just want to put that on the record today. Thank you for letting this committee go on. You know, we didn't let it stop. Yeah. I'm asking that it still goes on.
Well, thank you, Reverend, and we appreciate your oversight, and we appreciate the team effort that was put into making sure that we've reached these benchmarks.
Thank you.
Hi, hello, this is Luz. I do have a question. Are there like reminders that go out that your bus is on its way, or whether it's hour or the day prior? Are there any types of reminders that, whether it's text or email?
Yeah. Yes, there are. We make calls. We do day before calls, and we also do some imminent arrival if the trip originates from the home address. So they receive a call the day before, which will help the cancellation rate, and we also do the imminent arrival if the trip originates from the home address.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you once again.
Thank you.
Any other committee reports? Okay. India, who do we have for the new employees and promotions?
George Fields?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. We have new hire promotions to announce this morning, starting with our new hires.
Excuse me,
we can't hear George.
Yeah, we cannot hear George.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Great. We have Michael Bell, Central Communications Specialist, Nicole Campbell, Administrative Assistant, Peter Quigley, Safety Data Analyst, Sophia Caravino, Occupational Health Specialist, and Lisa Manil, Legal Secretary. For our promotions, we have Alexis Marcano, District Business Analyst, Carl Harris, Maintenance Leader, Sharnice Wilson, Contract Administrator, Melissa Beverly, Recruiter. And that's it for our promotions.
Well, it's nice to see the faces of all these individuals this time around, and I want to welcome all the new hires and congratulate all the individuals that received promotions. As we've said in the past, and we'll continue to say it, it's a great organization, and we look forward to your contributions in your new role or in your new position here at RTA. So thank you to each and every one of you.
Mayor Clough, if I may, as we talk about the new hires and the new promotions, congratulations to all of those folks. We would like to take a moment and also celebrate a couple of retirements that we have that are pretty notable within RTA. So I'll hand it over to Melinda first, and then I'll take up the rear.
He's already giving me the stare down. He's probably going to be upset because I'm putting a spotlight on him for a moment, but I want to recognize my fleet team leader, Ted Pickett, who is in the audience today. So if he wouldn't mind standing for a moment. Ted is going to be retiring Monday after 42 years at RTA. The bulk of that time has been spent in the procurement department. He has been personally responsible for all of our bus procurements since he's been in the procurement department, 30-some years, and before that he was drafting the specifications to assist with the bus procurements. He is well respected in the bus industry. I think probably all the bus manufacturers have his on speed dial. He is the go-to for a lot of information on Buy America, FTA regulations, etc. I'm personally going to miss him terribly, his professionalism, his attention to detail. I'm going to get upset. and just the respect for the processes and the way that we have to do business here to support FTA and our rolling stock requirements and Buy America. I want to wish him and Deborah a lot of health and success and happiness in Arizona and whatever you choose to do in your retirement, as long as you call me every once in a while. And I just also want to let you know that Mabry Harris, who's sitting next to me, has now taken the role of procurement team leader for our fleet department and will be handling those types of procurements, including the rail car, moving forward. So I just wanted to let him know that he is going to be sorely missed, not just by procurement, but I know operations, legal, et cetera, are also going to miss his professionalism. So.
Well, congrats. Congratulations on your retirement, and you look way too young to retire. But we wish you best in your retirement, and hope you have the opportunity to do things you weren't able to do while you were so dedicated here at RTA.
Mr. Pickett, I definitely will echo the sentiments of Melinda and Mayor Clough. You've been a joy to work with during the last year that I've been here, making a lot of tough decisions a little easier through the procurement process, which is by no means for the faint of heart. So we appreciate your time and your patience with all of the vendors. It will give you the floor if you have a few words to say. Make it worse, just rub it in a little bit.
I'd like to thank RTA for the opportunities it has afforded me. I came through the door in 1977 to 78 as a entry-level mechanic, and I was promoted to a brake team leader, and then an engine overhaul specialist, and then promoted into it used to be called technical services, which is now fleet engineering. And then in procurement, I've had the opportunity to remake myself several times and advance. And I can't overstate the importance of giving people opportunity to prove themselves. It's been a hell of a ride, and my family and I are better off for the time I've spent here, and I hope I have contributed to RTA and the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, to round out the announcements, we have one more significant retirement. This is for Pete Anderson, who is our current CIO that heads up our technology department. Pete is here in the audience as well, so we might as well embarrass 2 for 1 today. And we appreciate Pete for his efforts and his work here at RTA. He's been with GCRTA a little over 6 years and been leading the division for IT, not just information technology, but really just how we attack the whole COVID situation as well. That I can't be more upfront about the appreciation that we all have for the technology area and really the dependence on the virtual sort of lifestyle that we're transcending into, and the importance of that for RTA. So I know that Pete has a naval career prior to RTA, which definitely set the base from what I understand for a lot of his tenacity and how he goes about managing projects. So with that, I will hand it over to Pete if you have a few words.
Thank you, Ms. Birdsong. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the opportunity to have worked here to make a difference in the community and make a difference at RTA, and I think we've done that. I want to thank my team, especially all those in the back who should stand up and take a bow for all that they're going through to put these things together. I appreciate your comments, Ms. Birdsong, relative particularly to the pandemic and what we've done in the last several months and the difference that that's made for our staff as well as for others. And you're right, I did spend 25 years in the Navy, and I've been CIO for a couple of cities, both Columbus and Fort Worth, as well as for CODA, our sister organization in Columbus some years ago. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I really appreciate this recognition, and thank you for taking the time to listen to me, and thank me for being here. Thank you all.
Thanks, Pete.
Pete, we want to say that we appreciate all that you have done for RTA, and we want to congratulate you on your future endeavors, as I would say. And that's a long, great career that you demonstrated by letting us know how many years you've been dedicated to public service. And we appreciate your service in the Navy as well, military. So thank you once again for your dedicated effort and your commitment to RTA over these last years. Okay, Teresa, resolutions 2020-74.
Expressing sincere appreciation to the Cleveland Foundation and authorizing the General Manager, Chief Executive Officer to accept a grant for $75,000 for the purpose of sponsoring a fair, free election day on November 3rd, 2020.
Pleasure of the board.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you. Ms. Birdsong, you said you wanted to make some additional comments.
Sure, I will be very brief. I just wanted to underline and underscore the importance of this particular resolution to the board and to the public as well. We're in very uncertain times, and there's so much unrest going on in the country. It's nice to know that we can depend on our community partners, such as Cleveland Foundation, to be able to help us provide a sponsored free fair for November 3rd. So we really would like to be able to launch our kind of community connectedness sort of mission and endeavor for GCRTA for 2020 and 2021 to kick it off with this sort of partnership. It's really just a great example of how togetherness and great brainstorms really come to life. The Cleveland Foundation did give us a call and said, hey, is this something that you'd be interested in? And we actually had been looking for a partner for quite a while to be able to sponsor this free fair with, at the recommendation of a few board members, as well as just a few individuals that wrote our service, as well as employees. So this was a great thing that came to fruition pretty quickly, and it's definitely well worth the investment if the board sees so to approve.
Any further comments?
The other question I would just have for the agency is what's going to be the election is next week. So what's going to be our kind of quick go-to-market communication strategy to get the word out?
Absolutely. We do have Steve Vitto and we have Jose Feliciano here in the audience that can attest to the partnership. They've been working hard on the collaboration with Cleveland Foundation. I'll hand it over to them to explain.
Yes, Mr. Bibb. We're running at noon.
Oh, good.
Can you get in the microphone?
Your mic closer to yours. Yep.
Sorry about that. We'll be running radio starting today through the end of, right up to Election Day. Outdoor boards as well. We've got a pretty good deal with Lamar where some of the digital boards, we've got digital art that will be posted on some of the boards that are in the inner ring suburbs as well as the city of Cleveland. Audio announcements on our buses. Again, it was posted this morning, so we got to jump on that. Additionally, the digital boards at our rapid stations. I'm sorry to say that we did include digital ads on Facebook and Instagram. And Facebook has caught, because Election Day is included in the art, they bumped it. We appealed that, and they bumped it again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, free rides on Election Day, and, you know, Facebook is blocking us, so it's a little frustrating. But, you know, we're out there. We've got a week to get the word out, and we'll be banging the drum.
So please let the board know how we can spread the word to other various community organizations as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And Jose, I believe Cleveland Foundation is also advertising on their end as well.
Yes, thank you. President Clough, Mr. Bibb, and India, General Manager Birdsong. Yes, the Cleveland Foundation is going to be part of the joint marketing efforts. You know, all of the graphics package will feature that they're the sponsors of this promotion. Okay. And as soon as we hit noon today, then the promotion will start. In terms of community partners, I mean, feel free to let us know who you think we should be reaching out to. Right. Obviously, we're going to be reaching out to elected officials, CDCs, and other organizations who previously have reached out expressing, well, what can you guys do? Mm-hmm. So we definitely, ideally, hopefully can get some additional press with their support for such an important promotion. Great. Thank you.
This will include, I'll be remiss if I didn't mention, this will include all modes, including paratransit, bus, rail, everything that we put out service-wide for GCRTA. So just wanted to make sure we underscored that as well.
Good.
Anyone further? Any objection? Okay, the resolution is approved. Teresa, 2020-75.
Expressing congratulations to the employees of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority who retired during the third quarter of 2020.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? Well, pleasure of the board.
Move adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments?
Mr. President, members of the board, Ms. Birdsong, this is George Fields again. We'd like to recognize these 11 retirees for the third quarter. The first one that we have is Emery Moore, substation maintainer. Second is Peter Paluskovitz, vehicle servicer. And we have Marcia Pettis, manager of general accounting. John Joyce, chief of police. Bert Leisure, equipment electrician. James Owens Sr., maintenance technician. Thomas Toth, equipment maintainer. Johnny Thomas Jr., operator. Doris Swanson, clerk typist. Judith Costello, operator. And Yaya Muti, track maintainer.
Thank you once again. It's great to see some faces with the names, and we do appreciate, again, as always, all the dedicated effort that each of these individuals put forth in making RTA a better place to work and a better place to provide services to our customers. So thank you all, and we wish you the best in your retirement. And it's unfortunate that we can't see you in person, but we appreciate all that you've done over your careers. It's been moved and seconded. Any further comments? Any objections? The resolution 2020-75 is approved. Teresa, 2020-76.
Authorizing an increase to contract number 2018-112 with Transit Sourcing Services Incorporated for the furnishing of an additional 200 HRV 28-inch steel wheels as specified and as required in an amount not to exceed $174,000 for a new total contract amount not to exceed $898,000. General Fund, Fleet Management Department budget.
Pleasure of the board.
Move adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion or comments?
Yeah, Mr. President and members of the board, just want to let you guys know that we will be bringing a similar resolution to the board next month. This extension will allow us to keep continuity of steel wheels. As some of you remembered, several years ago we had a break in our continuity and weren't able to keep enough vehicles out. And so this will be coming. You will be seeing a similar resolution next month.
Any further questions or comments? Any objection? Hearing none, resolution 2020-76 is approved. Teresa, 2020-77.
Authorizing contract number 2020-58 with TransTech of South Carolina Incorporated for the furnishing of pantograph carbon shoes as specified and as required for a period of 3 years in an amount not to exceed $262,800. General Fund, Fleet Management Department budget.
Pleasure of the board.
Karen, move to adopt.
Second. Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further comments, questions? Any objection? Hearing none, Resolution 2020-77 is approved. Teresa, 2020-78.
Authorizing contract number 2020-170 for the purchase of rock salt from the City of Cleveland for the 2020-2021 winter season in an amount not to exceed $150,000, General Fund, Service Management Department budget.
Pleasure of the board.
So moved, Byrne.
Second, Joyce.
Second, did I?
It was Mayor Byrne and Karen, I think.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments or concerns?
Mayor Clough, hi, this is Valerie. Just because of it's with the city, I'm going to have to recuse from this vote on this matter.
Thank you. Teresa, would you call the roll, please?
Okay. Mr. Bibb?
Yes.
Mayor Byrne?
Yes.
Byrne? Mayor Clough?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Reverend Lucas?
Yes.
Ms. McCall, recuse. Ms. Moss?
Yes.
Ms. Pale?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mr. Serrano?
Yes.
And Mayor Weiss?
Aye.
We have 9 ayes and 1 recuse.
Thank you. Teresa, 2020-79.
Amending Chapter 656, Travel Policy and Procedures of the Codified Rules and Regulations of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority.
Pleasure of the board.
Move adoption.
Karen, second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. These rules and changes were brought up at the last meeting. Any further comments or questions? Any objection? Hearing none, Resolution 2020-79 is approved. Teresa, 2020-80.
Approving purchasing cards for travel on authority-related business.
Pleasure of the board.
Move adoption.
Second.
It's been moved in second. India?
This
Would you
is
like to
Karen.
comment at all?
Oh, okay, go ahead, India. I was going to have a question, but please go ahead, India, because I'm sure you'll answer it. Thanks.
No problem. We just wanted to comment on this very quickly, is that the travel cards or cards for travel came up, I believe, in the previous discussions at committee. We have worked diligently with the finance department as well as the legal department to make sure that we have a process in place regarding those accounts or those cards which board members and employees may not be able to use due to rewards programs that are tied to those particular vendors. And so we have a process in place whereby board members will be advised and updated as of those particular vendors that we have business and contract with, so that you're not in conflict. You will continue to go through your normal processes through Teresa in order to travel, but the card will be distributed when needed to the traveler and then turned back in at the end of the travel period. So we are doing this to be able to make it a little bit more seamless and also a little bit more black and white, so to speak, about what is permitted and what is not. Karen, go ahead if you had any questions. I'm not sure if I answered what you may be thinking.
You were, my only comment is, that I've noticed that we're adding someone else to there was someone, a position that's highlighted. And I'm just wondering how many, credit cards are we having out there, and how are we controlling, do we have good controls on that process? Because I think there was a time that we kind of reined it in, and now it seems like we're expanding.
Do we have Raj in the, there he is, behind Teresa. Go ahead, Raj, if you could comment on Ms. Moss's question.
Ms. Moss, Mr. President. Ms. Moss, if I understand your question properly, your question relates to the normal P cards and what budgetary controls, et cetera, we have. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, I guess I would be both, just making sure that we have good controls for the regular payment one, because I did see there was an additional one that someone else.
Yeah, I can certainly talk very, very briefly about it. So these cards are not your normal credit cards. They have a fixed, so they are not a revolving credit facility, which means that if you have a credit line of $10,000 and you spend it and pay it, it goes back to $10,000. So we have budgetary controls that are built in as part of the normal departmental budget. So if a $2,000 or $5,000 credit limit, if you will, is imposed on the credit card, once those monies have been spent, that card cannot be used unless we go through the whole process of making budget amendments. There are various controls as to what can be used and how that money can be spent. The size of the purchases are controlled. There's continuous review and approval, not only from the supervisor and the department heads, but also the P card administrator. And this is, and I see that Tony Garofoli is coming to the mic also. And the transactions are subject to ongoing internal audit review also. Tony, did you have something to add?
Thank you, Raj. I'll just add that the P card program is subject to a 100% audit in our continuous auditing program. Every transaction is processed through a electronic script where we interrogate the data with about 110 questions looking for any exceptions. Those exceptions are brought forth to management for remedy.
Thank you.
Thank
you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any objection? Resolution is approved. Teresa, 2020-81.
Approving revised list of positions designated to use purchasing cards.
Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
I'm sorry, who was that? Who seconded?
Mayor Weiss.
Okay, India.
This is a revised list of positions. Just wanted to reiterate and point out that we have this list by position and not name. That's very important. We wanted to make sure we continued in that practice so that the purchasing cards actually follow the position of the individual and not the name. With so many retirements and changes that we have in administration, we want to make sure that we are in full control of these P cards, and we have reflected that in the request for today.
Anyone further? Any objections? Hearing none, the resolution is approved. Teresa, 2020-82.
Adopting the framework for the future strategic plan of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority.
Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
Second, Terry.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments?
Just thank Mary Beth and her team in India for an additional briefing I received a couple weeks ago. I think that we are close to being where we need to be, and I look forward to the additional work from our other consultants down the line when we have our retreat next month.
Absolutely. We appreciate the board and Mr. Bibb for your consideration, and Chief McCall as well for really leading the conversation to be able to dig a little deeper as far as where we're headed for the next 10 years. I feel confident that this is a good base. However, we need to be able to keep moving forward and delve a little deeper, which we'll do over the next 12 months with TransPro that comes on board in the next few weeks. So thank you very much for this approval, hopefully, so that we can move forward and really start to dig into our action plan over the next few years in order to get to the end goals set out by this particular strategic plan.
Mr. President, I too I was contacted and appreciated the work that's being done by General Manager and Mary Beth and others on this plan, and we look forward to putting the pieces together to make for a wider and a better system.
Anyone else? Just a reminder that this is the framework for the strategic plan, so there's still a lot of work to be done. Okay, any objection? Hearing none, the resolution is approved. Okay, Interim Secretary's Treasurer's Report.
Eric Clough and members of the board, thank you. It's my pleasure to provide for you the Interim Secretary Treasurer's Report. As is our custom in the beginning of this presentation, we'll take a look at the economic conditions as an organization whose major revenue source is sales and use tax. The economy has a huge bearing on our revenue success. When we look at the unemployment rate, what we can see is that over the last 6 months or so, the unemployment rate has been coming down. The state is at about 8.4%. We get the counties later. We're a little higher than the state traditionally, but we do see that unemployment is getting better. We're still at a high level if you think about the fact that prior to COVID, we were in the 4% range, and in some places in the U.S. in the 3% range, but better than we were. What I want to call your attention to here, and now come back to its effect, is that there's been $11.8 billion in unemployment payments through the state of Ohio and the Department of Job and Family Services. This next slide provides us with, I think, an important aspect as to, although things are getting better, we're still at levels that we haven't been before. And so the economy is adding back jobs again, but we're still down about 6 years worth of job growth. So there's still a huge amount of joblessness out in the community, and that's important for us to be cognizant of. In addition to that, the economic conditions and the decisions of firms are still impacted by COVID-19. And the Cleveland Fed asked a question for regional employers, and I think this one is important. It says, has your firm meaningfully altered plans in hiring, capital expenditures, and hours? And for many of our industries, we know that they have. And so although things may be getting better, companies have altered continued investment plans that they would have normally done given the uncertainty of the economy. Locally and nationally, small businesses have been disproportionately affected, and small businesses are the engines to growth in communities. And we know that in addition to just small business in general, Black-owned businesses have been particularly hit hard by this pandemic. And so, again, ray of light is that, and you'll see in our sales tax that the sales tax is doing well, but the near term does not support that there's going to be a continued economic increase. As it relates to the internal component of the business, ridership drives fare revenue, and our ridership is, from the beginning of COVID, we've been about on average 54% reduction. We saw that in the height, we were in that 70%, driving ourselves up to 60, but now we've leveled off in that 56, 55% range, and so still not where we would be pre-COVID, but not where we were in the depths of the stay-at-home order. What has that done as it relates to passenger fare revenue? You'll see that we're averaging about 50 to 55% in passenger fare revenue. I will bring your attention to the September bar graphs. Last year in September was when we would have received the Cleveland Municipal School District payment. That payment has traditionally been around $4 million. We are finalizing an agreement, as is well aware that we will not have that type of revenue given the fact that students are not traveling back and forth to school. But we are working with the CMSD to finalize the agreement such that they'll be able to, when students return, have an equitable process. And so you'll see that large reduction there. We're working with the school district to come up with a plan so that when school starts, we have a convenient way to transport the kids. So here's the other side of the story. And so although we see the economy and we understand that it's not at its pre-COVID levels, the sales tax has been performing fairly strongly in the most recent time frame. September and October, you see that year over year, there have been slight increases in the sales tax revenue. And that is largely, we believe, due to the unemployment benefits and the extra payments that people were having. When those payments end, we think that the aggregate spending in our communities like ours is going to be reduced. In our last meeting, the Reverend said, what are those categories that make up that increase? And so you'll see here that we've identified that the largest categories for increase for our areas have been auto sales, online sales, and liquor sales. And just to give you a bit of a better understanding of what online sales does for an organization like ours, as a organization who's as a community who frequently had the shopping centers on the outskirts of the community, particularly in other counties. When that occurs, you do get leakages that people are spending money in suburban counties and therefore taking their sales tax revenue there. When we increase the online sales, the benefit to us is that you're taxed at your home address. And so individuals who have expendable cash the taxes are coming to Cuyahoga County. As compared to 2020, we have received $5 million more from the online sales component of the sales tax. And so that has been a roundabout positive for us. Mr. Bibb? Okay. And this here will be my last slide. Not only are we looking at what here happens locally, we are tremendously thankful to the federal government for its CARES Act. The $112 million that we have been allotted have been all drawn down through October of 2021, and those revenues continue to assist our agency in its stability. Mr. Chairman, with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Any questions? India.
No questions particularly, but I want to thank Dr. Caver for his really thorough explanation of what's going on the financial side within the industry. I think that it is suffice to say that we're in a very tumultuous time where we have a great uncertainty with how our ridership and our ridership patterns are going to look. It does dovetail pretty nicely into a part of my presentation where we'll talk about the system redesign fairly quickly. But with that said, we'll make sure to keep the board updated on all of the financial changes that come about, especially as the House and the delegation continues to push for transit funding. As Representative Sweeney mentioned this morning, as of current, there are no ongoing talks about a second round of CARES Act funding, but I would implore all board members to be able to continue as advocates for public transit, as is very evident. And I think, Dr. Caver, you actually said the right word at the same time, terribly and tremendously. I think they're both appropriate. We absolutely would not be able to continue without consideration of layoffs or cutbacks more than what we had through the initial stages of COVID without the CARES Act funding. So we absolutely depend on that funding to pull us through and keep everyone employed with 100% of their health benefits, and that I am proud to say we have done over the last 6 to 8 months.
Mr. President, I have two questions, maybe observations. I do thank you, Dr. Caver, for pulling all those things together. We talked about it last time, and it looks like when we're buying more cars and drinking more. That's the idea. In the proposal that's been passing back and forth to Congress right now, is there any more funds involved for public transit?
So, Mike, you want to answer that?
Sure. Yeah, Reverend Lucas, when the House passed the HEROES Act, there was a significant amount of money for public transit in that. There was $15 million. Then they had another version with
are at $15 billion, of which some of that would have come to us through a competitive grant formula. Other talks on the stimulus has had it as high as $32 billion. Most of that difference being with the much larger agencies, the New York, Washington, Chicago's, where the CARES Act formula certainly did not help them as significantly as it has helped us. We were very fortunate in the way the CARES Act formula was put together, in that it was set up in a way that we could act quickly and get the money quickly. And so we'll see what happens in the stimulus talks. It's still out there, but we're not banking on it. That's for sure. And so we'll see what happens. But, you know, the Senate never acted on the HEROES Act, and certainly the House and the White House and the Senate are all positioning, and you know, we'll see what happens. For us, it's not going to be life or death like it is for New York, Chicago, Boston, D.C., but we have tremendous funding needs above and beyond what's in the operating budget. So we're still monitoring it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anything else?
That's my report.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, under the President's report, I have an announcement.
Sorry, I have to give mine, if you don't
Okay.
mind, really quickly.
Go ahead.
I'll be very brief. Just the general manager report. We'll kind of breeze through this if you don't mind. I know we're running short on time. Just a quick update. If you recall, we did receive the build grant for $15 million a few weeks back. This is in support of our rail car replacement project. Just wanted to be able to share with the board a video that actually played on the news that pretty much summarized how we got to this award and the importance of it to the Ohio region.
All right, John, thank you. Meanwhile, the Greater Cleveland RTA now getting millions in federal dollars to help fix an aging rail system.
It's part of RTA's plan to replace dozens of rail cars over the next 4 years.
News 5's Homa Bash spoke exclusively with the U.S. Secretary of Transportation today.
The average age of a rail car is about 31 years. The ones on RTA's Red Line, they average closer to 35 to 39 years. RTA leaders say they need to be replaced, and this grant helps get them one step closer to that. The RTA Red Line moves about 20 to 25,000 people per day. The coronavirus pandemic, of course, resulting in record low ridership, but RTA leaders say they are slowly bouncing back.
We've come to find out that we're essential. We really are.
Pre-COVID, from January to March, ridership on RTA Rail was about 130,000 people per week. As of early September, it is roughly 60,000 per week.
Without us, it really is difficult for those who are in the lower to middle income brackets, particularly, who depend on us to get around.
It's why RTA General Manager India Birdsong says a $15 million grant from the federal government announced on Wednesday will help tremendously in their rail replacement program. The money is part of $1 billion in infrastructure grants the Trump administration is handing out to 70 projects nationwide.
It's a very, very competitive program. Basically, 1 in 10 applicants are able to, gain the grant. So I think Cleveland should be very proud of itself for having submitted such a good application.
And U.S. Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao says with ridership so low right now, this is exactly the time to fund these projects.
When the ridership is low, there's more of a lull, and there's more downtime. This is actually the best time to make these investments because we need to continue to make investments in our infrastructure for the future.
RTA says the repairs that can be done have been done. Now the goal is to eventually replace 50 of the 74 rail cars that are in use.
We've got good bones, as I like to say. So you want to make sure that you keep them strong.
The overall price tag for the rail replacement program is $300 million over the course of the next 4 years. Now, to be clear, that's paid for through state and federal dollars and other investment. It is not taxpayer funded. Reporting in Cleveland, Homa Bash, News 5.
All right, everybody.
You definitely have media support, which is very hard to come by when you come to public transit funding. So we definitely wanted to applaud the team, specifically Mike Schipper's group, for being able to support such a stellar application. It definitely paid off in the end. So thank you so much for your support from the board as well through our advocacy groups that are down in DC. All right, just a quick synopsis for an update on our system redesign. We talked about that very briefly. This is just a quick reminder that we will be soliciting or asking for information and feedback through Facebook Live meetings. So our information is listed here on the website, not below, but in front of you. We also will be updating you on the timeline. Again, we mentioned that our June 2021 is our estimated go live date, and this is our timeline of how we plan to get there. Again, this is part of our stepping stones of how to get to the overall goal. We will be going out into the community virtually over the next few months in order to get to that deadline by the summer. Also, just a quick update on IT. This is really an output of the Ad Hoc Technology Committee. We do appreciate the board's emphasis on technology and how important it is to not only our customers, but to our internal team as well. We will be migrating from Novell to Microsoft Office 365, and that really is just embracing the cloud, so to speak, to be able to talk about how we move forward with technology. We have been on the Novell system for quite a long time. I will rely on the team to tell me how long. Pete, was that 2 or 20? 20, oh Lord, 20 years. So we are moving forward into a new system, a new platform. Very, very well deserved, and I think the patience of the team has been tremendous. The goal is to move over by mid-December, if I'm not mistaken, and that is the tiki torch on Pete's retirement. Just wanted to make sure we say that. That's definitely a big undertaking to switch over from a platform that's 20 plus years. So we appreciate that effort as well. And Justin, thank you again for your motivation to be able to get to that point. Free Wi-Fi. This is another technology sort of win. This one I will definitely credit Flance Caver and his team specifically, and also Steve Bitto to be able to kind of push this out. Erica Tucker, I believe, also spearheaded a lot of this, along with our own board guru, so to speak, with Teresa Barrage. And we had a few hot spots that we identified within the passenger facilities and also on vehicles. And this is really to assist our student population with ability to connect, especially as we move over into a virtual sort of world when it comes to schooling. If you see at the bottom, Reverend Lucas, paratransit will be coming soon. With the beginning of December, I believe, is the target date. Mike Lively, under the ITS department, is spearheading that effort. And then also coming soon are the stations of Brook Park, Puritas, and West 150th. So we're very excited about that. Just to be able to show you our marketing assets that we have going alongside of that effort, the internal car cards, as well as the outdoor billboards and social media ads. This is just a quick breakdown through Civic Tech. Again, this is coming from the ad hoc committee, so you can kind of see what we go through in those meetings, talking about what the usage rate is, as well as the top categories for searchable items in social media and science and technology. And we have one more video if we want to cue that up.
RTA is doing its part to bridge the digital divide in the communities that we serve by providing fast, easy, reliable, and free Wi-Fi on all of our buses, trains, and at several transit stations and transit centers. To access this important and vital service, just connect to RTA CLE. You don't even need a password. Once you make your initial connection, your device will automatically connect from 15 feet outside of the bus or as you approach one of the designated stations and transit centers. Designated Wi-Fi hotspots include rapid stations at Tower City, Cedar University, Stokes Windermere, and the Stephanie Tubbs Jones and Southgate Transit Centers, and Wi-Fi will soon be available at Westside locations. Students can use it to work on assignments, download homework, or respond to their teacher so they can make the grade. RTA is driving education, students, and its customers forward. RTA is ready to connect your students.
So that was a great video that was put together by marketing. Again, you probably would have noticed the voiceover by a young lady named Ms. Barash.
I think Teresa's got a next career on her hands.
I also wrote the script.
Oh, okay. Watch out, Hollywood.
You never know where the talent lies. So we appreciate the staff for that and just the teamwork that went into it. It was a great production, and I think we have gotten a lot of positive feedback because of that. Just to wrap up my presentation, again, Election Day, the free ride offer. This is just a quick synopsis of what we have going out there for the marketing efforts to support that, and also just a thank you to the Cleveland Foundation and also to the board for your support of this initiative. And with that, that wraps up my presentation.
India, do you know how many of our buses actually take people to their polling locations, or is this designed basically to take people downtown?
For the November 3rd, so that's a really good question. I will say Raj and I tried to estimate, along with, I believe, Joel in service planning, to be able to look at what the expected ridership will be. How we arrived at the negotiation and the number, so to speak, is we looked at a typical Tuesday over time, and then looked at a typical weekday ridership, and then looked at any election day over the last couple of years. And we came to the idea that we usually bring in about $140,000 per day for revenue on that type of Tuesday. And then looking at the COVID rates on top of it, we reduced our expected ridership by about 55%. And that's what we're expecting for people to be taken to the polls. So about 50% of our ridership on a regular Tuesday.
Okay, I know in different cities, their polling locations are all over the city.
Right.
And sometimes they're not on a main route.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering how effective it is.
I definitely, Doc, if you want to jump in after, but having done this type of promotion in other cities, to your point, it's not always guaranteed that people are going to hop on the service to go to the polls. And I think that's a difficult thing to calculate. However, understanding that a lot of folks have to transfer a couple times in order to get to their polling location, we found it to be more equitable and in our best interest to be able to make the entire day free so that we don't get into having to show a button or having to show a sticker and then also having it cut off at a certain time. Some cities I have lived in have cut it off at, an hour after the polls close, so maybe 7 or 8 o'clock at night. But then a lot of folks get stranded at the end of the day because they can't necessarily get home.
That was the genesis for my question. If people are, through the promotion, they're expecting us to take them to the polls.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that they understand that it's a free day and hopefully the routes will get them where they're going.
Correct.
On that note, I live at J-Lot building at Shaker Square, 127 Shaker Square. In our building was a polling place. They have now closed all of those polling places, and the new polling place is at Harvey Rice School. A good thing about this is our people in our building can get on the rapid. Of course, they will come up the new Lucas ramp to get on the rapid and go one block, one ride, and they're at 116th, and they can vote and come back. So that I was looking, there's other places like that on the bus line and the rapid line that they're going to be able to go and be directly taken to polling places. So it's very good.
Okay. Under the President's report, I want to let everyone know that I will not be seeking reappointment. I will have served as president of this organization for 3 years. In our bylaws, we indicate that that is the optimal time that the president or the vice president should serve in that capacity. So I will not be seeking reappointment. Therefore, another mayor that would be selected by the Cuyahoga County Mayors and Managers Association would hopefully be elected in December. I think, India, did you say that there's a date already?
I believe it was December 17th, if I'm not mistaken, Teresa. Yep.
Okay, so consequently, my term here will end February 28th. We'll have more to say down the road, but I wanted everyone to be aware because the election for the appointment takes place December 17th. Okay, Teresa has given all of the board members a copy of a proposed meeting dates for 2021. If everyone has seen it and is ready to vote on that, I guess we can do that now. If not, we can bring it up at the next meeting. Any comments?
Mr. President, before we get to that, I know you will be presiding up until the time that you'll be leaving, but I do want to say it early. Thank you for the type of leadership that you've given to this board and to this agency. Of course, we'll say more about it much later, but I don't want that to go without something being said today about your leadership that you've given to the board.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all the support that I've gotten from all of our board members as well as all of the administration. But we're not ready to leave just yet.
We'll hold our comments. I won't embarrass you until February, then I'll hold my comment.
Hey,
All
Mayor
right,
Cliff,
any comments on the schedule?
yes, this is Valerie. It's not a big deal. I raise it all the time. So to keep with consistency's sake,
Can you speak up?
can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay, hold on. What about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say, I bring this up all the time. So in the spirit of keeping with consistency's sake, I'll raise it again. I just highlighted, I'm okay with the dates and I don't mind supporting them, but I raised that sometimes we do have a few meetings that fall the day after a holiday. And so just want to raise that again. It's not that many this year, but there are a couple. But for reasons we probably cannot move them. And I'm not recommending that. I'm just highlighting that we have a few that fall the day after a holiday again.
The dates, in January, we usually do meet the day after MLK Day, but we can look at the schedule and see if there's another date. And then also February, we meet the day after President's Day. But I think all the other holidays, we move the meetings away from the holiday, so.
Okay, if there's I was going to say at least in January or February, if there's a date that is in conflict, I think it needs to be brought up to the entire board. We can change the date given enough notice.
Okay, that's fine.
If not, then I'll just accept the fact. Do we need a vote on this, though, Teresa?
If it is your pleasure, do you want to accept the dates, the January and February dates, or should I go back and bring it back next month?
What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I'll move approval. I don't think we have to hold it up. I'll move approval.
Okay, it's been moved for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further comments? Okay, any objection other than what was noted? I would say the dates are approved. Okay, we go back to the public. Any written comments, Teresa?
Yes, we do have a number of non-agenda comments. I will go ahead and start and give the call-in time to catch up with the meeting. I'm sorry. I can't understand what you're saying.
The audio cut out?
Oh, the audio cut out. Okay.
Well, I guess all you can do is read.
For the in-room too as well?
Yeah, they can't hear anything that's being said right now.
Yeah, we have a number of them online that I'm going to read from offline.
Why don't we proceed with the written commentary, and see if, are we going to be able to pull it back up at some point, the audio? Okay. Okay. We can pause for maybe 60 seconds, and then at the end of that pause, go ahead and start to read the written comments, and then we'll check back in to see if the audio has keyed back in. All right, Teresa, do you want to go ahead and start reading the written comment?
Okay, so I'll start with two comments that came in last month. After we closed the meeting, there were two comments that came in that were neglected, so I told them that I would read these. The first one is from Will Totter of Broadview Heights, Ohio. At the previous board meeting, a Team NEO study was cited that said that full economic recovery should not be expected until 2022. Given that study was from June, has there been any communication with Team NEO since then to find out if that date and projection are still accurate, given that the sales tax revenue issues have not been steep as expected since the analysis in June? So staff did respond to his questions. The answer, the Team NEO projection for economic recovery is for Northeast Ohio. In the past two recessions, it has taken Northeast Ohio between 18 to 24 months to fully recover. The same time frame is projected for the recovery from COVID pandemic. Ohio Office of Budget and Management stated that August GRF receipts were 1% above estimate. Non-auto sales tax, auto sales tax, and personal income tax all exceeded estimates. Ohio OBM stated in their August report that consumption fell in non-taxable goods, recreation, accommodations, food services, and gas stations, but increased in taxable goods, building materials, home improvement, automotive parts, sporting goods, and general merchandise. The real gross domestic product, or GDP, has seen the largest national decline since 1947, although we are seeing a slow decline in the unemployment rate. 7.8 million people remain unemployed compared to February. Ohio OBM is also predicting a slow and long recovery. Question number 2, is there any argument that can be made by RTA or other public transit agencies to use this projection study in future funding conversations at the state level? Or do officials not expect for the schedule of a full recovery for RTA to correlate to the overall economic recovery projections made by Team NEO? The answer from staff is that Ohio Office of Budget and Management stated that August GRF receipts were 1% above estimate. Non-auto sales tax, auto sales tax, and personal income tax all exceeded estimates. Ohio OBM stated in their August report that consumption fell in non-taxable goods, which include recreation, accommodations, food service, and gas stations, but increase in taxable goods, building material, home improvement, automotive, sports, and general merchandise. The real gross domestic product has seen the largest national decline since 1947. Okay. Although we are seeing a slow decline in the employment rate, 7.8 million people remain unemployed. Okay, I think I just read this. Okay. The Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland states that it is concerned about the sustainability of the recovery that has been seen. The Cleveland Fed stated that although consumer spending had increased in the past several months, it is still well below the pandemic levels. And then his last question, finally, the county announced that they will go through budget conversations during the month of November as they deliberate distribution of $35 million from the new HHS levy. Will RTA be participating in any of these meetings, given the importance of transportation to the overall health of the county citizens? And the answer was no, RTA is not participating. The second comment that came in late last month was from Lou of Cleveland. Obviously, GCRTA has not received proper funding to be on the level to be capable of improving all elements missing in the organization for a long time. Thus, in addition to the internal culture and the service mentality, here are actions to be taken in order to make ends meet as a public service organization. Number one, free fare is a way to rebuild ridership for people and the economy in the county, to eliminate the possibility to be trapped in another long-term unfulfilled contract or more, and to decrease the needs of constantly changing expensive technologies related to fare boxes, all-door boarding, and even public health and public safety issues with or without COVID-19 pandemic, which have made some RTA efforts counterproductive. Number two, defunding at least 50% of the transit police does not allow help to redirect the fund into services, but also further decrease the crimes and crime rates produced by GCRT Transit Police. At least the technologies to conduct virtual meetings to communicate within the organization and with the general public, and technologies for direct service and financial needs are more important and should be met first to reestablish RTA GCRT standing in the community. End of comment. And then the comments that have come in for today's meeting. The first comment is from Chris Martin. Okay, this month marks 2 anniversaries for RTA. First, the agency celebrated 12 years of the Helpline. Go ahead and pat yourself on the back for the subsequent billions in economic development that I'm sure you give yourself credit for. However, the second anniversary marks 3 years since agency decisions killed the whole point and promise of the Helpline. RTA's decision to rid the Helpline of proof of payment fare validation has resulted in consistent delays and precipitous riding declines. Please join CPT and Black Spring CLE on Thursday at 6 p.m. via Zoom to learn about how you can heal the Helpline and begin to deliver justice for riders. End of comment. The next comment is from Elaine Morales. I am contacting because I believe we need to defund transit police and instead invest in other forms of commuter safety. I believe conversations on this topic will help improve our city greatly. We hope you can join us on October 29th to discuss this further. You can RSVP to CLE4transit.org. Thank you. End of comment. The next comment is from Riley Cleveland. Commit to abolishing police on the RTA. They're unnecessary and unhelpful. I have been harassed on the RTA so many times, and not once has one of your officers intervened. They don't do their jobs of protecting riders and serve only to intimidate anyone who can't pay the fare. End of comment. The next comment is from Joshua Twinsburg. I am writing because I have seen avid RTA riders, because I have been, an avid RTA rider for most of my life. Growing up in Shaker, the train was my gateway to the world. When my car died recently, I even caught the bus from County Line downtown to work. Service cuts have hurt a lot of people, and when so much money is being spent on transit police, it seems a simple choice. I encourage board members to attend Thursday's Zoom event being put on by Clevelanders for Public Transit in Black Spring, Cleveland, and hear from riders themselves. Please show that the board is invested in creating best outcomes by registering at CLE4transit.org. End of comment. The next comment is from Justin Petro of Cleveland. During this critical period, where RTA needs to properly invest its resources to continue to serve the community. Now is the time to divest from the Transit Authority and instead invest more resources into safe, reliable public transportation for the community. Clevelanders for Public Transit is holding a virtual meeting on October 29th that we invite and encourage RTA board members to attend. Please join us on October 29th to discuss this further. You can RSVP at clefortransit.org. End of comment. The next comment is from Lauren Joy Fraley, and her comment is, I commuted on the red line regularly in 2018 and 19, and as a white woman heading from Cam's Corner to Cedar Fairmount, I only witnessed police officers checking, usually black riders, for fare cards with reasonable suspicion, while my own interactions with officers were usually having the door held for me. This is the lens through which I share this comment. I am aware that RTA fares were doubled from $125 to $250, and RTA police budget was also doubled in 2012. RTA has claimed that crime is down 85% since then, ostensibly, I said that wrong, due to the increase in officer presence. But research done by Clevelanders for Public Transit in Black Spring, Cleveland shows that the only crime that has actually gone down is fare evasion, which accounts for 99.5% of the reduction in crime. Any change in quality of crimes are negligible, leading one to conclude that an increased officer presence has done nothing to public safety and has indeed caused physical, emotional, and financial harm to Black and brown communities. October 29th at 6 p.m. is a celebration of the anniversary of the Groves decision, which said that armed officers cannot randomly do searches on the RTA. At that time, in 2017, Judge Groves also made a recommendation to have unarmed ambassadors represent the RTA rather than armed cops. Yet this change hasn't been made. This is an opportunity to demand that Emanuela Groves' recommendation be honored, and we hope you join us. You can RSVP at clefortransit.org. End of comment. The next comment is from Katie Nickley of Lakewood. Dear RTA board members, I firmly believe defunding the transit police and investing in other forms of community safety, such as a civilian ambassador program, would be a significant step towards equity and social justice in Greater Cleveland. Reducing fares rather than paying police fare evasion would also be in the public's interest. BIPOC riders and poor riders are disproportionately and negatively affected by your current policies, policing systems. I invite you to take action by listening to and collaborating with community groups whom aim to amplify the rider's voice. Please join Black Spring and on October 29th to discuss further. End of comment. And the next comment is from Ernest Durbin of Cleveland Heights. I am writing to support defunding the Transit Police Department since the Groves decision in 2017 was struck down unconstitutional fare enforcement policies. The Transit Police have become redundant as a police force. Each community that the RTA services in Cuyahoga County has an existing police force that can respond to incidents that occur in and around the RTA. This overlap is an abject waste of the $14 million budget allocated by the RTA to operate a police force that only exists to harass and intimidate our most vulnerable community members. These funds could be used to immediately reduce fares and increase services for all residents, increasing ridership and working to a more sustainable RTA. I am asking that the RTA board members please join CPT in Black Spring, Cleveland on October 29th to discuss this further. And as I stated before, the RSVP is for CLE of transit.org. End of comment. The next comment is from Nathan Jercargo of Cleveland. I've noticed an absurd amount of allocation of the budget for transport has been going to the transit police over the past few years. I, as well as many others who have used and still use RTA services, feel like these are unnecessary expenditures and the money would be more helpful funding other areas used for strengthening the community. I hope you will join the board meeting on the 29th where this topic will be presented further discussion as the RSVP was stated before. End of comment. The next comment is from Cameron Damaska of Cleveland. I am a transit rider on the west side of Cleveland. The common route I ride is from the Eco Village Red Line stop to Tower City. Every time I leave the platform at Tower City, I see at least 6 transit police just standing around doing nothing. Police used to enforce fares on transit. They would harass riders, sometimes put them in jail, all over a couple of dollar bus pass. Luckily for us, transit police cannot do that anymore. Now they do next to nothing. We need to free up the wasted funds we spend on police and really invest in our riders. Board members, we will be having a conversation October 29th on Zoom to discuss more. Also, the RSVP was repeated again. End of comment. Okay, so that was the last comment that was emailed. I'm sorry, okay. Okay, Holly, do we have any comments that came in from the dial-in information?
3.
Okay, okay, sounds good.
Hello?
Okay,
Hello?
we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. This is Reverend Pamela Bud. How is everybody doing?
Great.
How's everyone doing this morning?
Doing well.
Hello? Okay.
Yes.
As the presidential candidate for 2020's election, I've been doing some research myself, and I heard some of the things that you all are doing that are fabulous, but I still have some concerns that are not being addressed. I've been working with Steve Bitto, and I'm glad to see, Reverend Lucas, that my prayers have been answered by your having a position on the board as a preacher, because we need a preacher on that board. I've been working with Steve Bitto in reference to the shelters being a very challenging place right now. And I'd like for someone to go back and review the people who have been adopting these shelters, because they're becoming a travesty. The other concern I have today with you all is that the vehicles coming out of the Windermere station, the cameras do not work. And I've been reporting that for some time now, and they're still not working on most of the vehicles. So the people and the drivers are not safe if there is an emergency. Another concern I have that I've been working hand in hand with Steve Bitto on is the care, the neglect, and the abuse and the endangerment of disabled people through the dialysis process. I don't know if you all are aware, board, and all of you assembled in that room, of what's been going on. The dialysis patients have been being left outside in this airborne pandemic. And when RTA has to drop the patients off, they have to leave them outside because the dialysis centers refuse to open the doors to let the patients in. I understand from a conversation with Medicare and Medicaid on yesterday that the dialysis centers are a business, a corporation, and that they're denying these people access, and they have a legal right to do so, and they don't have to let the people in with this airborne pandemic. And these people have been sitting outside from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. during this airborne pandemic, denied access to receive their services. And recently, I went to pick up someone from the 70 Tuck Jones Center because they canceled the dialysis after paratransit dropped the people off, did not notify anyone, and these people were left stranded. I don't want RTA or any other transportation company ending up with a lawsuit because these businesses see people as property and not seeing them as people I believe it's a travesty to have disabled people outside in this pandemic in wheelchairs, etc. And I would like for you, Chief McCall, to please bring this to Mayor Jackson's attention because it's happening not only in the city of Cleveland, it's happening in East Cleveland, it's happening in Beechwood, Euclid, Ohio, Shaker Heights, and many other places. And this is a very serious thing. These people are already disabled. And my final thought to you all today is I am a presidential candidate in this election. I don't like the way the funding has gone. It still is not fair. It still is not equally transmitted. And I still see that there are no properly running elevators in this process on the east side. I know that you're rebuilding and restructuring and you're doing some things on the east side of Cleveland, but I see ramps. A person who has a wheelchair that they have to push by hand that is not motorized, that is not a convenience for a disabled person. I've asked you one more time to please see to it that these disabled people are better cared for. I believe that Washington, D.C. has an attack on disabled people. And I believe that funding needs to be redirected to address these disabled people. And I hope that you would consider what I'm saying to you because it's not fair. These disabled people are being treated like those who had leprosy in the days of the Bible, who were denied access to the temple and denied fair treatment under the law and under religion. And these disabled people are being treated like women during their menstrual cycles who were denied to be able to go accessible to the temple because women were bleeding. And I ask you right now to please, RTA, look at this. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Next caller.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Speak up. Hello?
You speak up.
Yes, we can hear you.
I am calling back. I called not the last meeting, but the meeting before that, and I had explained a problem that I have had with an RTA police officer. And at this point, I would like to have a meeting with the general manager. I am a customer, and I should not be treated harshly, abusively. And this problem has cost me 2 jobs, possibly a 3rd job. And this police officer has falsified a police report. And I have pending charges right now. And I have lost the job. And this cannot continue. I am a customer, I have paid, I am supporting RTA, and the treatment that I'm receiving is not acceptable.
Do you have her name, Annette?
Is this Ms. Gardner?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yes, we have her name.
Okay, we will refer that to the general manager.
Ms. Gardner, this is GM Birdsong. I believe that my office may have reached out to you earlier this morning or last night. We are gathering information from Transit Police, and we'll be in contact by the end of the week.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Teresa.
Next caller.
Hi, this is Dana Beveridge from Clevelanders for Public Transit. I am calling today to say that CPT commends the RTA board for approving the agency's strategic plan. We hope that this means more opportunities to collaborate with RTA for a more equitable, better transit in the future. We also applaud RTA and the Cleveland Foundation for offering free fares on Election Day. And we hope that the RTA board members and leadership will join us on Thursday evening for our town hall discussion about safer alternatives to policing on transit. We're eager to discuss the possibility of RTA joining other progressive transit agencies across the U.S. which use unarmed civilian transit ambassadors as their eyes and ears on board. This is to ensure that customers like Ms. Gardner and countless others are able to have safe and comfortable experiences while on board RTA. So again, we truly hope that you can make it. You can RSVP, as many other commenters have mentioned, RSVP on our website, clefortransit.org. And you can also reach out to me personally via my email, and I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Any other calls? Okay.
That's it, right? Okay, well, thank you all for your comments. I did receive a flyer, and I've given for that event, and I have given it to the general manager. Okay, the next regular meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 17th, 2020, in the boardroom of the Authority, Route McBride Building, 1240 West 6th Street, Cleveland, Ohio, 44113. This meeting will be live streamed on RTA's Facebook page, www.facebook.com/ride RTA. For staff and members of the public, only board members are only board members and required RTA staff will be allowed in the boardroom. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's been moved. Second?
Second.
Okay. Second. All right. I hear no objections, so we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Has left the meeting. A participant has left the meeting. A participant has left the meeting. Has left the meeting.